That's awesome.
We want to welcome you to our Leavenworth City Commission meeting. We ask that you turn off or silence all cell phones. Meetings are televised every day on Channel 2 at 7 p.m. and at midnight, and also available for viewing on YouTube. At this time, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by silent meditation.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, we'll have awards and proclamations. Ms. Iris Arnold. Ms. Iris Arnold, on behalf of the City of Leavenworth, I would like to present you with the Mayor's Award for Community Service for exceptional, selfless dedication to the Leavenworth community. The Leavenworth Mission Food Pantry has become one of the largest food distribution sites in Leavenworth and services over 500 families each month. Iris continuously seek our partnership with faith-based organizations, social groups, and businesses to create opportunities to help our community. The Leavenworth Mission Food Pantry provides toys and supplies for an annual back-to-school event every year, as well as providing food needed for community meals every fifth Thursday. Iris' passion for giving back to the community has given veterans, disabled individuals, and families a service to rely on. We just want to say thank you for everything that you've been doing to the community, your dedication, your hard work, and just the love that you continuously show the citizens in our community. Thank you.
Well, I'm receiving this award today because of each and every person that has volunteered at the mission. So I want, if you don't mind, I want all those volunteers to stand up with me. And I borrowed a few words to say to them. To be a volunteer, it takes generosity, a willingness to give your time to others, understanding because their lives might be very different from your own. Empathy, an ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes and make them and know how they must feel. Compassion, to truly care about making someone else's life better. And patience, because the process, as we know at the mission, isn't always smooth. And dedication, to stick with the project and to see it through. Over the past few months, we've had to close our food pantry, and it's been a struggle for us throughout this year. But we've been determined to give out food still, in spite of it. And these volunteers, they've been outside in the rain, enduring the summer heat, making up food boxes, and they've been so selfless. So today, I'm sharing this award with you. Thank you.
We encourage you all to stick around for the meeting. This one gets real exciting. Miss Pam Sorrows. That's what I'm talking about. Got it. The history and culture of our great nation have been significantly influenced by American Indians and indigenous peoples, and the contributions of American Indians have enhanced the freedom, prosperity, and greatness of America today. Their customs and traditions are respected and celebrated as part of a rich legacy throughout the United States. Native American Awareness Week began in 1976, and recognition was expanded by Congress and approved by President George Bush in August 1990, designating the month of November as National American Indian Heritage Month. In honor of National American Indian Heritage Month, community celebrations as well as numerous culture, artistic, educational, and historical activities have been planned. Now therefore, I, Jermaine Wilson, Mayor of the City of Leavenworth, Kansas, hereby proclaim November 2019 as National American Indian Heritage Month. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm sorry. Last year, I played for you 4 notes, I think it was, or maybe 2. And I promised you I'd come back and play more than those 4 notes. But I also want to share with you a writing that that was sent to me from a young lady who's in the 10th grade. She's a Lakota Indian. It's called Tell Me About Your Story. Tell me about your story. Was there blood, sweat, or tears? Maybe there was some glory over your last 100 years. Within your homeland, prisoners they were, a powerful people, a powerful prayer. See the strength, feel the pride, run with nature, nothing to hide. A little more heartache, it will never last. Strong in their ways, set in their path. Walking in beauty all the way, walking in beauty, the natives say. Brought them home, home to stay. This is our story of blood, sweat, and tears. No, there is no glory, but we will be here the next 100 years. Tell me about your story. Lavella, 10th grade. She's in a South Dakota school called Red Cloud Indian School, and she's a Lakota Indian. And hopefully in honor of her, I can play this.
Would also like to present a proclamation to Ms. Wendy Scheidt. Small Business Saturday is a shop local campaign held on the Saturday following Thanksgiving to encourage reinvestment in small business across the country. Small business employ over 55% of America's workers either owning or working for a small business. 87% of consumers in the United States agree that small businesses are critical to the overall economic health of the United States, and according to research from Civic Economics, for every $100 spent at a local store, $68 stays within the community, while online shopping generates little or no benefit for the local economy. The City of Leavenworth wishes to recognize the contributions that small businesses make to our community and local economy. Now, therefore, I, Jermaine Wilson, Mayor of the City of Leavenworth, Kansas, hereby proclaim November the 30th, 2019 as Small Business Saturday.
Thank you, Mayor Wilson and Commission. We have a tremendous group of small businesses and entrepreneurs that are downtown and throughout the community. Everyone should be proud of all of that, and we hope that you think about that as you're making your holiday purchases. You can get everything you need in your own community. In celebration of Small Business Saturday, Main Street promotes Miracle on Main Street with the National Main Street Center and American Express that sponsors it. We've done this for about 4 or 5 years since its inception. Main Street gives away $1,000, 10 bundles of 100 Main Street bucks, which are recirculated within businesses downtown. And for every $25 that you spend at a participating business, you'll be entered into the drawing. Last year, there were 34 businesses that participated, and $74,300 was spent that day at those 34 businesses. That didn't include any restaurants and the majority of the community. So it's a tremendous promotion. I think Small Business Saturday should be every Saturday of the year, but hopefully you support your small businesses in your community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, old business, consideration of previous meeting minutes. If there's no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the minutes of the October 22 regular meeting, 2019.
Motion has been seconded. Begin voting with Commissioner Preisinger.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried, 5-0. Next item on the agenda, second consideration ordinance 8116, approving redevelopment plan.
Mr. Mayor and Commission, as a reminder, at the October 22nd City Commission meeting, the Commission reviewed and placed on first consideration the ordinance to adopt the redevelopment project plan for the redevelopment district, the North Gateway District, known as TIF Project Plan Number 3. We went through that in detail on the 22nd. There have been no changes since that meeting. A couple quick notes. This is subject to the Commission approval of a development agreement, so even if you pass this now in second consideration, we'll see the development agreement later tonight, but this would not go into effect until a development agreement has been executed.
Okay.
Any questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain, this calls for roll call, starting with Commissioner Bowder.
Aye.
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 Vote passes, 5-0. Next item on the agenda, second consideration ordinance 8117, approving community improvement district.
Mr. Mayor and Commission, again, at the October 22nd Commission meeting, the Commission placed on first consideration the approval of a community improvement district for TIF Project Plan Number 3, which is the project plan we just discussed in the previous item. There have been no changes since that October 22nd meeting, and it's before you tonight for your approval. Again, the CID is also included in the development agreement.
Any questions or comments? If not, start the roll call with Commissioner Preisinger.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Vote passes, 5-0. Next item on the agenda, second consideration ordinance 8118, vacating an alley in Block 97, day in Mccauley Subdivision.
Mr. Mayor and Commission, again, the final item from that October 22nd meeting related to this item was a small city alley that needed to be vacated in the middle of this, or the western edge of this development. Again, it was just a small remnant of an old alley. So before you tonight for second consideration to vacate that portion of the alley to let the development continue forward.
There's no questions or comments. Start the roll call with Commissioner Bowder.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Vote passes, 5-0. New business, citizen participation. This is open to anyone in the public that would like to address the city commission pertaining to items that is not on the agenda. Yes, sir. Please state your name and address.
My name's Robert Adams. I live at 905 Osage. Me and the mayor's already talked, but I want to know what you're going to do with the Riverside campgrounds. We've lost a whole year because of the flood, and there was other places, you know, that we couldn't go, Perry Lake, but you've got plenty of people that come down there, and there's no sense just letting it go. I moved here in 1989, and that place was a disgrace. You had druggies, drug dealing, all kinds of stuff going on down there. And we finally got it cleaned up, and Charlie's been taking care of it for the last 5 years, and he does a damn good job. He keeps everybody out of there that don't need to be down there. But we don't need to let it go and become, you know, just someplace along the river for people to throw up a tent. Need to get down there now before the big heavy snows and the spring comes and it gets sloppy. Charlie can show you where all the pads are. You got a bobcat come in there and scrape them off, at least for the winter time. But you've got people that come in from Platte City. There's a lady that comes up from Texas every year and spends the entire summer down there because her son lives up here on Post. We go down there almost every weekend, even though we only get Saturday to spend and Sunday we're breaking back down. But it may not seem like it's far away, but when you're down there and you got all the trees blocking you, you don't even realize Leavenworth's up there. It's like going camping, and we like it. And there's a guy over in Platte City, they save their money, odds and end money, all winter long, just so they can spend their week down there during the summer. So I just ask that you guys, you know, try to clean it up, and that way next year we can get down there and start camping right at April 1st, like we always do.
Yes, sir. And I'll reach out to staff and I'll contact you tomorrow with the time frame. Okay. Yes, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you. Anyone else? Not. Moving on to the next item. Resolutions B 2239, nonprofit organization, event Alive After 5/2020.
Carla Williamson will handle this item.
Mayor and Commissioner, this is a resolution to authorize the serving of complimentary alcoholic liquor at the Leavenworth Main Street Alive After 5 events. They've been doing this for, is this maybe the 5th year, Wendy? Coming up on the 5th year. So with all of their Alive After 5 events, this just allows them to serve that alcohol, and it's just a requirement by the state that the commission pass this resolution.
We just do this every year, correct?
Yes, and Ms. Scheid is here from Leavenworth Main Street if you have any additional questions for her.
Yeah.
This is for the next year, 2020?
This is for 2020.
Right,
yes.
thank you.
Any questions or comments? No? All right. If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move we pass Resolution B 2239, the nonprofit organization event Live After 5 2020.
Second.
Motion has been seconded. Again, voting with Commissioner Preisinger.
Aye.
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 Motion carried, 5-0. Next item on the agenda, consider development agreement with Fort Gate Properties LLC.
Mr. Mayor and Commission, the next item on the agenda is the development agreement for the North Gateway Redevelopment Project, otherwise known as the TIF Increment Financing District Project Number 3. I'm going to take you through a little bit of background information and then walk the commission and the public through the development agreement, the highlights of it, mainly dealing with the incentives. Let's go to the next slide. The North Gateway Redevelopment District was established by the City Commission in 2011. It's a tax increment financing district, and I'll get into what exactly that is on the next slide. The north boundary of this district is Metropolitan Avenue to the north. The south boundary is Pawnee Street. The east boundary is 4th Street, and the west boundary is 7th Street. For the purposes of tonight's project, TIF area project number 3, which I'll show you in detail, comes right here to the end of the Commander's Inn property, moves west and encompasses the old bank property and vacates this section of 6th Street. Going back a little bit, 2011 when the TIF district was created, why was the TIF district created? The first and foremost, it was to spur development. Tax incentive districts or tax incentive programs are designed to incent development that would not occur without the incentive being in place. This area attracted no development, no interest, no investment, no commercial interest for years, and so the city moved forward with a tax increment financing district, first and foremost to spur development. The second goal of a TIF district, or co-equal really to spring development, is to remove blight. Everybody will remember the pink house, which is in the upper left-hand corner. You'll see other shuttered homes, residential structures, and I've included also a picture of the Commander's Inn. There were some dilapidated commercial structures also in the area. A TIF district protects existing tax revenue. At the time that the district was put in place in 2011, a snapshot was taken of all the property taxes created in that district, and that level was maintained and still to this day is maintained for the city, the school district, and the county. There was no revenue lost, only new revenue is used to spur future development. And then finally, why did we select this area? Among other reasons was to improve the entry to the city. The look and feel as you cross into the city. It's at the intersection of two state highways. It's next to a very large employer, federal employer, and it is the gateway to the city. So that was a little bit of the thought behind creating this district in 2011. So once those was in place, the first two projects, TIF project number 1 happened in 2012, and TIF project number 2 happened in 2016. Those two projects, those first two, brought a total investment of about $17 million to the northeast section of the community in the city as a whole. Here's a picture of what the entryway to the city looks like now. So what did these first two projects do? They met the hotel demand. We knew there was pent-up hotel demand. We had done a hotel feasibility study, and hotel developers were ready to come in once we got this tool in place. They also funded improvements with the revenue generated. These two hotels, with their property tax, their increased property tax value, provide capital to fund development further into the TIF district. They kept the revenue in Leavenworth. We had significant hotel leakage to neighboring cities and even a neighboring state, and that helped keep the revenue in Leavenworth and created that entry point, that important entry point into the city of Leavenworth coming over the bridge. So the next step, TIF project number 3. After the two hotels came into being, it got challenging. The other properties aren't as easily, the prices, asking prices weren't as reasonable. There were more challenges, and it was harder to incent development. So TIF project number 3, the next step as we're calling it, is north of Metropolitan, that's the north boundary of the project, south to Cheyenne, which is right in the middle of the TIF district, west to 7th Street, and then east on the mid-block between 5th and 6th Street. The project firm that we are entering into an agreement tonight, if the commission approves, is Cadence Commercial Real Estate. And this project started well over a year ago, or this process, after many attempts with a lot of other developers who were interested in the area, but didn't quite pull the trigger, and we'll get into why in a second. The project with Cadence has had many different configurations, site layouts, incarnations, if you will. We tried to get a project from 7th Street all the way to 5th, but ran into development costs that went well beyond what made financial sense. This is a similar sentiment that we ran into with other well-respected developers. Making that full 2-block development presented a lot of challenges. After much time and conversation, Cadence was convinced that they could not recruit enough tenants to make the development work financially and began to work just on the bank property. That's when we were trying to get all the way to 5th Street. The city communicated the desire to include the Commander's Inn. We made no secret about that. Our police chief weighed in with me on that, with staff and with the commission, that needed to be part of a development. And the leverage that the city has is the incentives necessary for a project up here. We indicated that it would be tough to support an incentive deal without at least including that project. This led Cadence to creating a project that justified buying and raising, which costs about $1.5 million, the Commander's Inn, without adding a whole lot to the project. So that was a partnership that we were able to enter into with Cadence to get them to use the Commander's Inn to expand the project and eliminate that blighted property. So getting into the development agreement, it's a pretty standard development agreement as far as all the legal protections for the city and the developers on defaults and all those issuances that are included in the development agreement. But I know that the issue that usually comes up is the incentives. So I'm going to go through the incentive package as it's laid out with Cadence. So first of all, it's a pay-as-you-go incentive project. There is no upfront city money. There is no city-issued debt, no bonds taken out, no money fronted to the developer. In fact, the developer already purchased the property. So they've acted very progressively and proactively throughout this project. The first arm of the incentive, pay-as-you-go, is the CID, which we've already seen on second consideration tonight. Again, that is only sales tax generated by the businesses within their development. That does not extend outside of their individual TIF project plan. So then the next project, is a sales tax TIF. Again, this is generated by the businesses that they operate, and we've capped that at $1 million. The next incentive is a property tax TIF. This is the value created by their development over what was previously there. So as their properties take shape on that, and they create more property tax, that increment is returned to the developer. And then finally, the property tax TIF generated in the district. As you can see from the numbers up here, I'll stop to really highlight these. These first two are relatively low generating, less than $2 million over the life of the project is what's anticipated, with a project investment of $7.1 million. In order to make this work, Cadence needed a public incentive package that reached to $4.5 million over the life of the project. So the final property tax, or the final incentive, is a property tax TIF from property tax increments generated from the district as a whole. We agreed that that was justified based on the site development costs. There's substantial stormwater utilities. There's a road that they have to rip out 6th Street, properties that they had to acquire and raise. There's grading issues on the site, so substantial site development costs. But we did also want to, because it's the largest part of the incentive, make sure that there were benchmarks in place that assured that there was progress being made along the way. So here's what we came up with, and that is included in the development agreement. $1 million of the 2.75 is available upon approval of the development agreement. As I mentioned, the developer has already spent well over $2 million on the project, and we felt that that was a justified start to the incentive on the property tax TIF. Secondly, $500,000 becomes available, again, not paid, just available as it comes to the city. We only pay what we have from the district back out to them. $500,000 available upon the demolition of the Commander's Inn. From the beginning, this has been a crucial part of the development for the city, to remove that property that had become a haven for criminal activity, a blighting influence on the entire area. We want that property razed as soon as possible. Then we started to tie it to pulling building permits. So the next $250,000 of the $275 is available once they are able to be issued building permit number 1. That takes a lot of work to get a building permit. You have to have site plans, utility plans. It's an extensive, and it shows a big investment, and they likely wouldn't be able to pull a building permit until they'd signed up a tenant to go into that property. So again, we did that for the first 3 building permits, stair-stepping benchmarks, that as each building permit was issued to them, they would be eligible for another $250,000 in total incentives over the entire life of the project. Finally, we wanted to incent at least one larger building on the site, and so we've offered an incentive of $250,000, again, toward that $2.75 million, if they include a building on the development of larger than 4,000 square feet. I won't get into what this prevents, but it prevents a lot of small users. This brings into play much larger users. I don't know what that's going to be, but it'd be a larger structure. And then finally, we hear a lot, we have no control over what tenants, nor do we want control over what tenants the developer brings. They're going to bring in the best and highest use for this property. But we thought that it would be nice to entice something new to the market. So the final $250,000, the $2.75 million, would be available if they brought in a tenant that was not currently in Leavenworth or Lansing, or a business that was not currently in Leavenworth or Lansing, as sort of a bonus, if you will. So again, the number $2.75 million was in play throughout the discussions, but working with Cadence, working with the city staff, we came up with a structure that I think protects the public. It shows that there are proactive steps that Cadence has to take in order to get or be eligible for the entire $4.5 million of public incentives on a project of total investment of $7.1 million. Some incentive notes. Again, I'd like to reiterate that the city is not issuing debt for the incentives. There is no upfront money. This is pay-as-you-go. The city only pays out eligible costs on paid invoices with funds that we already have in hand from the district. I think it's also important to point out that the property tax revenue used for the incentive can only be used in the TIF district or for limited infrastructure leading to the TIF district. So this is not money, these tax dollars are not money that could go for the police department, the fire department, a larger citywide road project, sidewalk projects, stormwater projects. The whole point in creating a TIF district is that revenue generated in the district is reinvested in the district for development. This is the first retail TIF project, and I've been here 10 years, so I can safely say in the last decade. So it's been a little bit of a different approach than the public's used to, because we don't know the tenants yet. With the hotels, the previous ones and the project that we did, we knew the hotels that were coming in. They were just single users. This is a larger developer bringing in third-party tenants to be part of a larger development. The property is subject to our existing development regulations, including items related to landscaping, parking, signage, size of signage, stacking lanes for any kind of bank or fast food or fast casual or anything. All those regulations in the development agreement will pertain to this development. And then we'll pledge to the commission and to the public that as we know, and the developer shares with us, when it's official, the tenants, the use of the property, will make that as public as we can. So the development agreement before you tonight has been negotiated between the city staff in good faith with our attorney and the Cadence Development Team, Fort Gate Properties LLC, who is here tonight. If you have any questions on the development, the incentive deal or development agreement, somebody here should be able to answer that for you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Paul.
Good presentation.
Yes.
Any questions?
I have a question that, first of all, it's, I think, a well-written agreement, and you reviewed it very well, Mr. Kramer. The one section that I had a little challenge with in terms of understanding what were between Cadence and the city in terms of specifying and also maybe implying was section 5, assignment and transfer, and I'm just trying to get a little bit more understanding of, you know, what are we trying to get at with that particular section of the agreement?
So there are a few things going on there. The most important part and our starting point is that the city has worked with this development group, and particularly through what we call the developer work, which is the construction of the project, the city wants assurances that it is going to be working with the people that it's been negotiating with, that you know, try to protect itself against tomorrow having some other company, a group of people that you've never met before, coming in and working with. So the underlying rule is on this agreement is that until the project has been done, this development team is the one that will be there doing that work. There are exceptions to this. We have some exceptions in here, provided it, you know, certainly some things do change. But to the extent that there is a proposed assignment to another third party, that can't happen without the city's consent. And there's some measures in here about making sure that the group that comes in has the financial wherewithal to be able to handle the project, and that the city at least has the opportunity to vet if for whatever reason another group does need to come in. There are some other exceptions, for example, you know, concerns about transfers or assignment. We didn't want that to look as if it was deemed to apply to the lease of space to tenants. You know, that is, if you think of, you know, that is a property interest, at least that could go to somebody, and we didn't want to prohibit that. We want to encourage the leasing and such of properties in this as well. There is an exception in here for related party transactions. So if there's, you know, for whatever reasons that they might have, if they want to do it under a different LLC name or what have you, as long as it's still under common control and ownership, the city would allow that. And there's also an exception in here for bank financing purposes. And a lot of these, what you'll see the term referred to in here is a collateral assignment. And for example, to obtain financing from the bank for this, they may have to pledge to the bank revenues, such that in case there's an event of default or something happens some way, those TIF revenues, instead of going to the developer, they would go on to the lender, and the bank would have a claim in order to make itself whole in case there's a default. So that is the type of assignment that we would allow in that case as well. We call that a collateral assignment. So there is an exception for that as well. So those are the exceptions, but to the underlying rule that we want to make sure that we're working with the same group that's gotten us to this point so far. And it's a lot of words to do that.
No question about it. Is this something, it would seem to be pretty imperative that this particular section be in an agreement?
Oh, absolutely. No, yeah, absolutely. This is a very common provision in all this, and those exceptions are very common as well.
We had that in with the
Thank you.
Any other comments?
No.
Nope. If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the development agreement with Fort Gate Properties LLC.
Second.
Motion has been second. Begin voting with Commissioner Preisinger.
Aye.
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 Motion carried, 5-0.
I wasn't sure if I needed to state the motion more clearer than that. That's
Next
all right.
item on the agenda.
Could I, Mr. Mayor, could I just say something with respect to that? No, I would, and I don't know whether we'll have a chance, but, this is an important night and a very, good crafted agreement, and I would just like to say that I believe it's the right agreement at the right time for the right reasons. And I know we're not legally or contractually partners with Cadence Real Estate, but as we move forward in the execution phase, I know that the commission, the city manager and his staff will continue to work closely with Cadence. I appreciate the investment and the work that you've put into this agreement. So we are at a good point, a great point tonight that will improve our city, and something that we've been working on for a long time, probably close to a decade, as the city manager talked about. But I, for one, am very, very happy that we're able to reach this agreement, and look forward to, hopefully in the springtime, breaking some ground out there and beginning transforming that particular part of our city, which really is the entranceway to the city of Leavenworth. So thank you, and that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll go ahead and respond. Thank you. Comments are greatly appreciated. Staff has been wonderful to deal with. We're excited to get going.
Good.
Thanks so much for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you as well. Thank you, sir. Next item on the agenda, consider bids for airport flood repair project.
Mr. Mayor and Commission, I'll start on this, and we have our Public Works Director, our Airport Fixed Base Operator, and members of the Airport Advisory Board here tonight, if you have any other questions. Basically, what we're doing is the airport flooded twice. It's insured, it's a city facility, it has insurance, so once the flooding has receded, staff put together a bid package to repair the airport. The airport total funds came in at $165,605.41 from the insurance. We had a couple costs since then, $30,975 for the massive amount of cleanup that you can imagine after water sitting that high for that long twice. Also, we had some insulation that had to be put in immediately before we could get to a larger project. Those totaled a little over $38,000. Remaining in the insurance proceeds, we had $126,830.41. So staff bundled a large building, HVAC and electrical projects, put it out to bid. We did have a couple of companies come to the pre-bid, but we only had one bid from Baker Construction, a local firm who is very familiar with the airport and has done a lot of work up there before. Their bid came in at $134,415.32, which of course is over the insurance proceeds by about $8,000. Staff, in order to get the costs below the insurance, the remaining insurance proceeds, removed a door system of about $40,000. However, the contractor and the fixed base operator said, hey, if we can find other ways to, they really want the door, and I understand that. If we can find other things in the bid to cut out to get to that insurance proceeds, is that acceptable? We indicated yes. This was late Friday, which is why it's not in your policy report. They've come back and asked if they could remove remove and replace the epoxy finish on the flooring. That's an $11,280 item. And I have a spreadsheet I can hand the commission here, which would bring the new project under the insurance proceeds for a new total of $123,135.32. So that's the motion that I'll ask you to make tonight to award the contract to Baker Construction. And I did give that number to Mayor Pro Tem Griswold, and I can hand it to the commission just right before the meeting started. To award to Baker Construction. We'll evaluate the flooring and some other stuff as we go forward with the airport, about what we need to do and where we are at the end of the year with some remaining funds to see if that's possible. We do have the contractor here. We have the head of the Airport Advisory Committee, Mr. Greg Cos, and again, our FBO, fixed base operator, Dean Ayers. If you have any questions about the project, Mike McDonald and his staff put the bid project together. And I think everybody's ready to go and get that airport back open and running.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's get it done. I wish we could put it up on stilts. I mean, I remember when so did it go clear up to the eaves then?
Not
Did
quite, I think
all
it was
in?
7 foot or so in
Yeah.
it, so I think it was to the top of the inside walls or pretty close to it, but it didn't submerge the whole building like it was in 93 and
Oh, I know. In
2011.
93, some of my grandfather's World War II artifacts went downstream with it, with the building. But it just is, it's too bad that it has to keep flooding. I wish there was some way it could be up higher, but I don't know how that would be. If you could put it on floats, Greg, and make it so when the river goes up, it would go up. I don't know. Anyway, I think let's get it done. Let's get it fixed.
Assuming the commission approves the bid, when would the repairs start?
Keith Baker's indicated they would plan on starting within the next couple of weeks. It's about a 60-day time period. I think there's some long lead time on the door, but that can proceed independently of the rest of the work.
Okay.
Are you talking about a hangar door? And you're talking about a
It'd be
door?
a single door rather than the 3 individual doors and
Oh,
the
got it.
posts.
Okay.
If there's no other questions or comments, I entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the bid from Baker Construction for repairs to the Sherman Field Aircraft Office and Hangar Building in an amount not to exceed $123,135.32.
Second.
Motion has been seconded. Begin voting with Commissioner Preisinger.
Aye.
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 Motion carried, 5-0. The next item on the agenda, consider sole source bid with Douglas Pumps for bar screen at water pollution control.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, our Public Works Director, Mike McDonald, will handle this item.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, this is related to a key piece of equipment at the wastewater treatment plant. Acting Superintendent Tim Gordato is in the audience this evening. If you have questions that I can't answer, which is entirely possible. This is what they call a bar screen. There are 2 of these at the front of the treatment plant, and they're designed to catch basically non-treatable items that end up in the sewer. They rake them up, a set of bars, and they end up in a dumpster, and they're hauled to the landfill. If the treatment plant is subject to high water, the forces and the stuff that floats in, if you will, during the flood can damage the screens. We've had damage before, previous floods. We've been able to repair them or make minor modifications and such. But for whatever reason on this flood, one of the bar screens has suffered enough damage that the rake assembly and the motors and the chains that all work together to remove the material. To repair them costs essentially more than replacing them, the arm assembly and a lot of the other related components. We examined what it would take if we were to find a similar piece of equipment by another vendor. This is a lot of money. And while there are similar looking pieces of equipment, they don't play well together. And in essence, to get somebody else's equipment to work in this environment would have doubled the cost of what we have proposed from through the original supplier and vendor. So we recommend that the City Commission approve this sole source proposal from Douglas Pump. And there's some contracts that we're working on with the City Clerk's office Those are warranties associated with this as well. There's a 90-day labor and a 1-year parts and material warranty, and there'll be the normal insurance and other requirements that we have. But we do recommend that the City Commission approve this sole source bid from Douglas Pump in the amount of $140,788.
Assuming we do approve the bid, there is some lead time on getting these parts in, correct?
Yes, it's about a 3 or 4 month lead time on the bar screen parts. There are 2 bar screens for a reason. Theoretically, as you work on one, the other one can handle the normal flows, and that's the way we've been operating all summer. If that remains the same, we should be back up in normal by spring.
If there's not any more questions or comments, I entertain a motion.
I'll go ahead and move that we approve the contract for repairs to Douglas Pump in an amount not to exceed $140,788.
Second. Motion has been seconded. Begin voting with Commissioner Preisinger.
Aye.
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 Motion carried, 5-0. Consent agenda, Commissioner Bowder.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve claims for October 19, 2019 through November 8, 2019 in the amount of $1,594,638.97. Net amount for payroll number 22, effective October 25, 2019, in the amount of $338,217.94. This includes police and fire pension in the amount of $11,572.36, and payroll number 23, effective November 8, 2019, in the amount of $337,350.37, no police and fire pension.
Second. Motion has been seconded. Begin voting with Commissioner Preisinger.
Aye.
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 Motion carried, 5-0. At this time, we'll have an executive session, personnel matters of non-elected personnel. Return back here at 8:05.
You need a motion.
You should
I'll
do the
move.
motion.
You should do the motion
I'll do it.
as drafted in the.
I move to recess into executive session to discuss the annual performance review of the city manager pursuant to the non-elected personnel matters, exception KSA 754319, B. The number 1, the open meeting to resume in the city commission chambers at, how long do we need?
8:05.
Oh, we're not asking you.
20 minutes.
20 minutes.
Well, she should do 10 after 8, I think.
Okay. At 8:10 by the clock in the city commission chambers. Human Resources Director Lana Lanter is requested to attend.
Second.
Lana.
Motion has been seconded. Begin voting with Commissioner Preisinger.
Aye.
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 All right, motion carried, 5-0. Executive session. We are currently now back in session. At this time, we'll have a motion to talk about staff personnel.
Just wait for Commissioner Bowder, and then I'll make a motion.
You're good.
I move to approve a 2% merit pay increase for the city manager, Mr. Paul Kramer, effective 1 January 2020.
Second.
Motion has been seconded. Begin voting with Commissioner Preisinger.
Aye.
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 All right, motion carried, 4-0. Any other items that,
No.
discussion amongst the commissioners?
It was a cold parade yesterday, but
Yes.
the parade committee did a fabulous job working on the weekend, and really appreciate them honoring the veterans the way they did this weekend. It was a
And
nice
for the,
weekend.
for the participants in the parade and who were participating in the parade and the people along the route who did come out, particularly the young children who braved those elements, I really have just kudos for them and appreciate their support for a great parade, but unfortunately the weather didn't cooperate, but it still was a really good parade. So I just reinforce what Commissioner Bowder
It
just
was
said about
definitely
it. So,
memorable.
Memorable, yeah.
Commissioner Preisinger?
Obviously, I wasn't in the parade, but I understand it was a pretty rough day, and I'm glad that it went off well. And I'd also like to give thanks to the other 6 candidates for the city commission. Obviously, only 3 moved forward. The 4 that didn't make it, I want to thank them for their participation. All great love for the city, and appreciate that names out there and ran for the office. And I look forward to in the future that we always need good people running for the city commission offices, and we had a good candidate slate this year, and hopefully in a couple of years we'll have another good candidate slate.
Yep,
Absolutely.
that's good. Paul, all right, if not, I'll entertain.
Can I? I wanted to extend my congratulations to Commissioner Bowder and Commissioner Preisinger on their reelection to the commission.
Thank you.
And also Ms. Kamala Leonhard as a new commissioner who will join us sometime in early December. But just congratulations, and I look forward to working with, continuing to work with Commissioner Preisinger and Bowder, and then a new Commissioner Leonhard.
Look forward to working with you all, too.
Say again?
Let me do the school board one.
Oh, you're gonna do the school, oh, you were gonna.
Got the list.
Oh, okay. No, I just wanted to do that, and, that,
Congratulations, Daniel.
yes, yes. Okay,
No, you're
I'm good,
good.
I'm good.
Yeah. All right, at this time, I entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Motion second, begin voting Commissioner Preisinger.
Aye.
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 Motion carried, 4-0, meeting adjourned.